Okay, untap, upkeep, drop.
This is Interplanar Public Radio. IPPR. Bloop, 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 bloop. Well, hello, everybody. You guys are listening to All Cards Considered. I'm Jesse Batend.
I'm Dylan Cassidy.
And we've got a guest with us.
Our intern.
Taylor Jones.
Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
Coffee, anybody?
I think I'm good, actually.
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah, but we'll let you know. Oh, God, that felt mean.
It wasn't. Taylor loves it. Isn't that right?
I love to serve.
That's true, yeah. All right, well, then I don't feel bad at all. But we're here to talk to you guys about the Wilds of Eldraine. We just did a couple of pre-releases, in my case. How did it go for you guys? Any first thoughts?
I went... it's good. I am still figuring it out. I don't know if I made the best deck with my pool. I went 1-1-1 at my pre-release. I did an Orzhov enchantments thing with the Archon that gives you makes your creatures into 4/4. So I really didn't have
Thing is
a
real
lot
tough.
of doorbusters except for that card. So when I played it, I won my games, and when I didn't play it, I lost my games. And then I just had a whole suite of removal, which was good, but eventually you got to have something that'll win you the game. You can't just remove all 13 of their creatures.
Definitely. I went 1-1-1 as well. And my seal pool was pretty interesting because it kind of actually pulled me in multiple directions. Like I pulled is it Gruff or Gruff triplets?
Gruff triplets, yeah.
And they're really good, but my green was weak, so I kind of, and it's like 3 green pips, so I decided not to run it, and I don't know if that was a mistake because it just is kind of, it's not necessarily game, but it's pretty good. But
it's probably game winning, I think,
it's
in
pretty,
a lot of cases.
It's probably the closest to a game winning card in the set. And I had a very clear blue-white tap-down deck that had like some of the great pieces, the crown, signpost uncommon.
That thing is awesome.
And then I had a couple of the enchantments that like buff your stuff when you tap down. So that was cool. And that was like what I first saw. But then I like kind of looked at my black and red, and I had like a really cool black red like rats like low to the ground. It had like impact tremors in there, so it was just like ding 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 ding. And so I actually was able to make 2 full decks of those 2 color decks that felt pretty solid. And I would switch between them. Like I would like, especially if I was on the play, I was like, let's go rats and let's try and like.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then if I was on the draw, I'll go tap down and try and like recover and kind of stabilize.
What a way to fuck with them too.
Yeah,
that's so annoying.
I do love.
Is he playing now?
I love like switching decks fully or like really pivoting your deck to different colors and stuff like that. I enjoy that kind of.
I've done that on Arena, but I haven't ever actually like sleeved up 2 separate decks and had them with lands and everything ready to just switch decks in between matches. That's really interesting.
It's really fun, and I liked both of the decks and like the way they played out. I really love the blue white. Like as soon as I like read the spoilers for the blue white stuff, I was like,
it seems so strong.
That seems so fun, and like also like the nature of timing with like tap down stuff, I think leads to fun decisions. So I was really excited to play that. But my red-black deck felt stronger. It had good removal and like low, like good rares in the low cost. I had like the Battle Mouse.
That thing's cool. Strong.
I had like a cool play where I played Battle Mouse with a free Ginger Brute as my second card. That was kind of cool.
My highlight play was the pacifism effect that's in there that you can like pay 3 and then exile. Was paying the 3 to exile it, holding priority, and then casting a bargain spell. And once the exile is on the stack, bargaining away the enchantment to do my bargain effect.
That's really clever.
So I really do enjoy bargain in this set. I think there's a lot of really fun things you can do with it. Also, like we talked about a little combo with some of the sagas that are like
the princess takes flight or whatever, where you like exile a creature, and then if you bargain away the saga before it resolves, the creature doesn't come back. So it's like 3 mana, exile one of their creatures, and you get
and it just stays in exile.
And then you get the buff, and then you bargain it away before the third chapter, and then
those are both really good.
The third chapter is what returns it to the battlefield. So if it doesn't get there,
doesn't trigger, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's really fun. That's really cool. Yeah, sagas. I kind of noticed there aren't as many of them as I sort of expected.
Sure, yeah.
Given that they're like a feature of the set.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some really strong ones. There's that red-blue one that the first 2 chapters like make a reflection of a creature that doesn't already have a reflection. So you get to basically copy 2 of your creatures, just not the same one twice.
Yeah.
And then the third one kills all of your reflections at the end. But like, there's nothing stopping you from bargaining those off or flinging them with the like Callous Sellsword.
That card a fan of it.
Killed me pretty hard a number of times. Yeah. There is a lot of indirect damage in this set.
The
like
3-cost witch.
Yeah, the witch is a thing.
I mean, yeah.
The witch that nugs you with the food.
Yeah. And that thing is a lot of reach in a black deck. I got taken down from 6 health with it. Like just 3 food. I was like, well, I have to... It's dead. I'm dead. They
6
keep making
damage
food.
Is serious.
Yeah, 6 damage is huge.
And then of course there's
catapults.
Catapults are nasty.
The catapults are extremely strong, especially in Two-Headed Giant. We'll talk a little bit about Two-Headed Giant because obviously that like changes up the picks a bit. But Impact Tremors, like I don't know if it's really like a draft. Like, can you play it in draft?
I did. I actually like got there with it. Like,
yeah.
I think the game that I played it
works well with Celebration, right? If you're already going to be making like multiple bodies.
Like when it comes down on 2, it's quite strong. I mean, in that regard, like maybe it's a little weaker. Like, I also had Raid Bombardment, which deals direct damage when you attack with things.
Sure.
Probably, honestly, not good technical play because, like, if you top deck it late, it's like, what are you doing? But it was like, I did have a lot of ways to like generate rats and stuff like that. And so, I mean, the game that I played it on 2, I think it did 6 or 7 damage total, like by the end of it. And it's like inevitability too. Like, like when you get stalled out, but you just, every card that you play is just getting there. So
something that I was feeling is I feel like there's a lot of food in this deck. And there's a lot of direct damage.
Yep.
But what my experience was I didn't have the mana to both like stall out the board against some of the aggressive direct damage decks and have mana to spend my food to heal myself to stay alive to like stall long enough to retake the board. I don't know if that's everyone else's experience or just, a small sample size of bad deck construction on my part.
It's hard to say. I think that there was a real disparity in the length of games for me based on the deck that I was playing.
Sure.
So it almost didn't matter what my opponent was playing. I kind of had my way enough that like my deck was doing what it wanted to do to affect the game enough. So like I built a blue-black control deck and we had a 40-minute game. And it was like 2 blue-black control decks playing each other. I built, my first deck was a red-green stompy smashdown deck and I won a number of games in like 10 or less minutes. When we did our Two-Headed Giant, like spoiler, going back to the Impact Tremors, right, is the one when they enter the battlefield. Yeah,
pings.
Going back to Impact Tremors, we played against a team that had Impact Tremors and the make an X number of rats spell, and Impact Tremors hits both opponents. So they just did X3, but we took 6 damage. So that was amazing. And then my partner Chaz had 2 catapults and basically all removal. So he was dealing 4 a turn with those things.
Oh, yeah.
Does catapult do it to each opponent?
Each opponent. So 2 catapults, 4 damage every turn, just off 1 instant or sorcery.
There's that other flyer, like the 3/5 flyer that ETBs, and if you bargain it does 3 damage to each opponent too.
Yeah. There's a lot of damage.
There's a lot of direct damage.
The one that absolutely crushed games for me was a 1-drop, the black enchantment that makes them discard a card and take 2 damage.
Oh, is that each opponent?
It's each opponent.
Oh.
They had a way to bounce it and then play it a second time. So it was like turn 1, play that, then their friend bounced it back to their hand, then they played it turn 2, and we had to discard another card. also we had both mulligans and I think went down to 6.
That's tough.
Even after the free mull. So it was just like, oh boy, we have an uphill climb. But then I think like basically every other opponent I had in every other game seemed to play that card. We'll see if it's as good, but it seems to be just as good in limited. I played against someone, they did that turn 1. There's a lot of ways to attack the hand. The 4-drop
the fairy
that makes them discard.
There's another big discard,
There's a double discard with Wicked Roll. Although it's 4 costs for double discard, which I think is pretty expensive and like
it's definitely overcosted from the normal.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm sure there's like moments where I'm like, I'm getting hit with it, and then there's moments where I don't realize that I'm not getting hit with it because like I don't have the cards and it's just a dead card for them kind of a thing. So
yeah, this set is full of, speaking of like which, this set is full of cards that don't do anything. Like there's an incredible amount.
As much as I love that they included the list slot again, which
as
is
enchantments,
a thing that I love, and I'm glad they're doing it, and I hope they keep doing it in future sets. And I also am such a little Timmy for enchantments, so I love that. But enchantments a lot of the times suck. They're like, I think as a card type, probably the weakest, just general card type out there. A lot of the times they enter the battlefield. I mean, that's their MOs. They enter the battlefield and don't do anything.
I mean, there's a whole category of them, which is auras, which are inherently like, 2-for-1 bait. Like, there's so many auras that you're like, yeah, this is good, fair, like price, but I'm not going to run it because if I get removed, then I lose 2 cards, and that's like, I don't know, you see it in like limited resources and stuff. Like whenever they talk about an aura, it's like the auras always have like something to prove where other cards don't. Like,
well, it's funny that you said that
because I draw you a card.
Yeah. I really do feel like this set is somebody being like, I'm putting my foot down. We are making auras, but we're going to force them to play auras. Every single card is going to make an aura. What do you guys think of rolls?
I kind of like them. Yeah, I think they're interesting. At least, like, it's not, I don't have it all baked into my brain, so it's still something, it's novel enough that I am thinking about it still.
It's interesting. I think that I haven't found it to be, and okay, we've only been mostly playing sealed. I've only done like 1 draft so far, but the whole like choices thing hasn't really come up. You can't stack limited rolls on a creature.
Oh, yeah.
Has been more of a limitation of maybe preventing creatures from getting too big. But I haven't found it to be like, ooh, I have a really tough decision. Should I make him wicked or should I make him a young hero? Like, it's pretty obvious who should get which token. Mm-hmm. And then by that point, you might not even have a choice because there's no way that you're going to put it on your best creature and sacrifice the old aura. You're going to put it on one of the other creatures and go wide. And so far they've been a little underwhelming. The one that I think has a huge impact on the game is Young Hero on a rat. 4/4 rats are scary. Like at that point you start having to block them.
Yeah. I found that Young Hero is definitely like, when I see it on the other side, I'm like, Jesus. Like you just know that it will become a 4/4 unless you do something about it.
And there's not a lot of stuff that kills. I mean, like, all the bolts and stuff are not killing 4s.
Actually, right, Dylan, let me just talk about how wrong you are for a second. Actually, I can, like, go ahead, pull up Scryfall.
I guess my thing about rolls, I think it's kind of a miss that you and your opponent can both have a roll on a creature. I think the set would be more really interactive if it was true, and also less confusing if it's like one roll, and then it's like, okay, well, you put a curse on. Now I can be a little strategic and play my roll to drop your curse off. I'm sure they probably play tested something with that. It seems like a low hanging fruit.
That's a entire bit of like interaction that isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it would make for more fun choices. It's like, oh, do I know that they have like a thing that off on an adventure that could come in and like take care of this curse? Maybe I hold it for a little bit longer, kind of a thing. But my guess is that maybe that's like complicated with the rules to like say like you have to define it as a type or something. I don't know what the deal is, but I do think the roles in general are cool. And I don't think like which role is that important, but like whether to replace a role has been an interesting choice, like especially with the curse and the wicked roles. Like as
the wicked role is a fun one to just like
cycle.
Like it adds like I think I love cards and like decision making stuff where you're like doing like lethal puzzles in your head where you're like,
sure,
oh, do I have it? Like if I wicked roll, like sack this creature, and then fling. Like I actually do have Xaxes for like that kind of thing.
Taylor's going to be introducing a new segment for our listeners called Lethal Puzzles, in which he'll present a board state and you have to figure out how to find lethal from it.
How to get the kill. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
There's really lovely synergy between a lot of what the different archetypes are doing. Like bargain works really well with rolls, and rolls work really well with celebration, and adventure is it's a nice mediation of adventure to like have an adventure be like make a roll, because it's not that powerful, but
a roll is like half a card.
It's like half a card, and so you staple it on half the card and we're happy. Like that's appropriate. So I think a lot on the face is really nice, but just my impression, I don't know if this is actually true. It seems like Wicked is the most common roll because it's like kind of the safest. It pings them for 1. It's just a +1/+1 counter that pings them for 1. So it doesn't do that much damage. Young heroes are a little bit rarer. It's on like uncommon cards. So
there's the one card that reses something about that. Does a young hero? Is that when it dies? Protective Parents?
There's Protective Parents. There's Return Triumphant.
I think that card might be a sleeper one that I want to try playing more. Return Triumphant.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. There's a lot of cards I can't wait to try in a draft. Like I think it's Emberth's Veteran, the 1-drop that it's a 2/1. You can pay 1 mana, sack it, and make a young hero token.
Oh, that's
so it's just
cute.
like hit him for 1, maybe you get the in for 2, and then when it's not helpful anymore, kill it and put it on a rat or something, and make your rat into a 4/4. Just I could see you have the perfect. You have so much control about when to sack it off to put yourself just 1 turn ahead of your opponent to make sure you get the young hero up to 4/4. And so I love all of that. Fairies are really fun. I think the Baronati.
Oh, he does work.
Dude, is he
about that last night.
Sleeper? All right. Like, that's a good card on its face. Let's say you have no other fairies in your deck. I would still run it.
Flyer,
a 2 mana 1/3 flyer
all
that's
day
probably
long.
got lifelink.
And it's in my case, it's had lifelink almost every single time.
Because when you get it, you also get the other 3 copies of it that are in your draft.
Yeah, and then it's like
I don't know if that's gonna stay that way.
And then it has like the fire breathing effect. Like it's not good, but it's
I haven't
like,
activated that
it's
yet.
just
But
gravy.
It's even got more. Yeah.
The ability to pump it is awesome. So what happens is like it's not hard to get a wicked roll on it, and then it's like a 2/4 flying.
And then it's now a 3/4 flying lifelinker.
Yeah, and you pump it when you need to. That thing can get there on its own, and you can get fairies incidentally off of good cards like the draw 3. That's a good card. It makes a 1/1 fairy, and now you're in business. So I like that. I like the Fairy Lord a lot. I opened that in one of my pre-release kits, and that was my best deck by far. I don't know if you know him, but basically whenever you attack with a fairy, you draw a card and then discard a card. You do both of those things automatically, but
then
when you discard a card, you put a counter on a fairy. So
he's good.
He's amazing.
He kicked my butt.
I wonder, he's probably not like constructed playable. I don't know enough about constructed, but seems like it has a lot of parts going.
I can't. It's like very on par with Ledger Shredder stat line, right? Because every time it attacks,
that's what I thought of when I saw it.
Ledger Shredder maybe gets it twice a turn because it can happen on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, triggers off your opponent's.
So maybe that's better.
Kind of nice. This triggers specifically for fairies.
I guess Ledger Shredder can happen twice per turn each turn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could do it.
I guess.
I mean, I
know 2 counter spells. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but it doesn't really like. I think realistically, you just have to be really spinning your wheels there.
That's
like,
not gonna happen.
It's like can't trip. So I can draw and discard.
Now, the big difference, of course, is that Connive doesn't guarantee you a counter.
Yeah.
This guarantees you a counter.
That guy's he's trouble. He's a kill on sight card for sure.
Definitely a kill on sight card. I'm still trying to suss out how bomby the set is overall. Like you mentioned the Archon. That thing just crushed a deck.
Absolutely.
I was feeling great about. I had the Fawn. I had color fixing. I was about to like play a 5-drop on turn 4. And that thing just came out and ruined my day. I lost a couple of games to the Hasty Dragon. He's kind of like baby Goldspan because he makes a treasure when he attacks, but he's not nearly as good.
He's not as good.
But he is very strong, like exiling the
trample.
It's got a black adventure.
He's not haste though.
Well, he's got trample and something else though.
He doesn't have haste.
Trample and flying.
That's why he's
flying trample. Yeah,
the main reason he's not as good.
Yeah,
but making a treasure every time you attack is strong. A 4/4 flyer is strong, and
some cards.
Exiling some cards is strong. So
Yeah.
that's a bomber.
I mentioned this earlier, but I've done 2 drafts so far in Arena, and in both of my drafts, I opened up I think it's like an 8-cost green sorcery that lets you look at the top 20 cards of your library.
Trash.
Which is just, it makes me sad. That's not a card I'm ever going to play, and I like to play the bad cards.
Did you try playing it?
No, I didn't even draft it. It wheeled on both of them, and I still didn't take it.
I got it in the Two-Headed Giant pre-release and then one of my other pre-releases, and man, the art on it is cool. I want to play my rare, but like, I think it's just actively bad.
It's unplayable.
Do you know which card we're talking about?
No, but
it's like, look at
you had me at 8 mana.
20 cards from your library and put 2 creatures onto the battlefield, I think, is like basically the text.
Yeah.
But it costs 8 mana, so by that point in time, it's like you're looking at your whole library, and do you have 2 more bombs to play?
Yeah, are
Maybe.
your bombs even in your deck is a totally valid point there.
I'm thinking about like if you're in the blue-green...
Go big, for sure.
I think
but
that's
you
like
got to
the
get a
one-
lot of big guys.
Mana.
Yeah. I mean, there is the signpost uncommon that taps for 2. Like, so if you can, I think there's like it's very niche, and I think it is a dog shit card. Like, you shouldn't
play
it unless you already are in blue green and
you need
wheel it. You know what I mean?
5 or 6 ramp cards to play that, and then the rest of your deck has to be targets.
I mean, you do get to 8 though. Like, I mean, like Behold the Multiverse was good.
That was 7 though.
That was 7, yeah, I guess. But
Well, it depends how drafts play out.
I do think it's a bad card. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to think of like why would it. But I think like there
it's
is a world where you would put it in your deck and you'd be like, yeah, I'm like happy to see this card come
Sure.
up. But I think
I really like, while we're on green here, the Cultivate sort of card that's 3 mana, and then either search your library for a land, ETB, green, make a token, or get a food.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a classic. It just kind of does everything you want. It can be a celebration if you need it to. It can gain
That's
you
gonna
life
be
if you need it to. Ramps.
Yeah, doorway to
Blocker.
multicolored decks.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, and it enables bargain. Literally, it enables like every archetype in the set.
Yeah.
I like
I
that
love
card.
cards like that.
Run like 2 in a number of decks and felt perfectly fine about that. So what I was going to ask you guys is like, do you have a sense yet of kind of, you know how we talk about like the number, the power toughness number, where you feel like you're a big tough boy? I think rolls are part of that conversation, right? Because you can bump things up a little bit, up and down. Do you have a sense from the games that you've played, maybe what that is?
The card that's sticking out to me right now is the Golgari Adventure Uncommon, the giant. That's the 5/5.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that's going to have 4 power. Like there's the 3-drop that has 4 power. That's pretty easy to make a 5 attacker. So I don't know. Like that's hard. Maybe even the biggest uncommon or the biggest common is the green 6/6, right? Is there anything with a bigger butt than that?
So the green 6/6
uncommon.
There's that dragon. Oh, uncommon. There's that dragon that is like a 4/6, right?
Yeah, the uncommon
I think
flyer.
it's an uncommon.
Yeah.
I remember like when I saw that come down on against you yesterday, I was like, damn, that's a big boy.
Well, so hilariously, at least in my games, stuff gets huge in Eldraine.
Yes. I've seen a lot of stuff get really big that I haven't had removal for. And I just, I don't know what to say about it.
Well, and that's because like the Stolen Goodies adventure on that little red 2-drop is really strong. I had the one that copies adventures, and I copied it and just put 6 +1/+1 counters out on my team one time. That was really good. And then the Elusive Otter, he's a rare. He's a 1 blue 1/1 with prowess, and his adventure is green X. Put X number of +1/+1 counters on things. So he's fantastic when you draw him late and you've got a little bit of a board. I mean, I don't know. It's like free. It's just sitting there on a 1-drop that would otherwise do the stuff for you anyway. I was playing it in a red blue deck that just had 1 forest and a couple of ways to splash. Well, treasures. I was making treasures. That's how I was doing.
I'm like having a flashback to my game, and I'm wondering for rules wise, like because somebody played the goodies against me, like where they were like putting +1/+1 counters on a card, and I removed it in response.
Oh,
and I think
hell
that means that the card doesn't go on an adventure.
Oh yeah, no, that goes straight to the graveyard.
And I think it did go on.
Actually, brilliant point that you just brought up here. Blowout potential all over this set.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have these double cards that can be both a trick and a creature or something like that, but yeah, when they counter your adventure, because you're trying to get a little bit of marginal extra value off of your sick 5-drop, like, be careful. I've had that go badly for both players.
I like the green rare that kills guys on an adventure, too. Have you seen him?
No.
There's a green rare that's a 3/4. He's
he just
2 green
makes
and
sure
a white.
they never come home?
And he has 3 effects when he enters the battlefield, and you can do all of them.
Okay.
One is choose a card that is on an adventure and exile it.
Isn't it don't you put it on the bottom of their library?
Sure, maybe, but you get rid of it.
Yeah.
It goes away. Yeah.
Then you can put one of your cards that's on an adventure back in your hand, and then you can exile a player's graveyard.
Man.
So he does a lot when he enters the battlefield. A 3/4 for 3 he's pretty good in this set. I think he's pretty much always going to have targets. If you're patient.
So one thing that carries over from old Eldraine, I think, too, is that there is just like tons of ways to get rid of a creature, whether you're turning them into 1/1s, and some of it is like subpar removal, like the Coop Up or whatever, the ransom
Pacifism.
that's expensive. Yeah, but so
there's so many things.
it's just like, how do you want to build your deck? Like, you can win with 2 1/1s in the air if you build your deck to win that way. You can win with indirect damage. You can be big and stompy. And I've had fun with the blue-green deck the one time that I built it. So I think we're all still getting a sense of it. And I'm still not 100% sure, like, how draft is going to feel. Like, are the games going to be fast, or is it the kind of thing that's going to really depend on what everybody's playing, you know?
It hasn't felt that fast to me. Like,
it feels pretty slow.
Even when I was playing my fast deck, like,
Food can grind.
Like, yeah, food makes it grindy. Mid range, like, has legs. Like, it's not like
all will be one.
All will be one, where it was just like you
got 5
bing,
turns.
bing, bing, bing. Like,
Yeah.
It's definitely not that. There's good 2-drops. There's good life gain. There's good stabilization. So, like, I think the rolls are great in terms of, like, also, like, beefing up some of your little drops to, like, become.
The rolls make me think that this is removal is the most important thing in this set, because basically anything can become a threat. There's so many cards that, like, just grow in this set.
Yeah.
I had someone play there's the blue rare 1-drop that enters. It's blue and X, and it enters with counters on it for 9.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
I did that too.
And then you can remove a counter and draw a card.
Yeah, that's amazing. They just scooped. They're like, you're gonna draw 8 cards.
Yeah.
And just smash me with that every turn.
Yep.
Yeah, that card's awesome.
It's good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah, there might be a little bit of a bomby set. We'll see how it ends up playing out.
With 2 rare slots
too.
I hope it is. I like bomby sets.
Nothing wrong with that. And especially if they're very synergistic and force you to build around. If anything, I think the difficulty level of this set is significantly different than Lord of the Rings, right? Like, you kind of have to know what you're doing to build a deck a bit. And
yeah, it's
sure,
more complex.
You can smash
I
cards
think.
together, but someone will beat you. And it might feel bad too. I had some games where it really felt like one deck was outpacing the other by a lot.
Wasn't Lord of the Rings kind of replacing, like, a core set?
Yeah.
Basically, like, it was supposed to be simpler.
Presumably for people that, like, you know, have never played Magic before but like Lord of the
Simpletons.
Rings. Yeah, exactly. No. I suspect that this set is one that does have a lot of, like, cool build arounds to discover. So one of the drafts I splashed for Charade, the uncommon blue-white
Oh,
tapper.
that card's great.
Whenever you
so
tap a
good.
creature, you draw a card. And then I had the crown. And so this was not my main strategy.
GG.
Dude,
That's so
holy
good.
Was it so fun? It was so fun because you can do it twice. Like,
Yeah.
oh god, she comes out. Yeah, that was phenomenal. And it makes you feel smart, even though, of course, it's all pre-programmed. But
Yeah.
like, I found it. Okay, so let me ask you: has any color? And then I wanted to ask you about a couple, like, specific situations, little things that popped up. Has any color, like, jumped out at you? Do you have any favorites yet?
I've been drawn to green.
Sure.
I think I
like
always
green
usually
too.
start there in the beginning too, because it's just like I can put a big guy down, and that's gonna at least slow the game down a little bit and have board impact.
Yeah.
in an unknown environment.
I love that 1/3 fawn that taps for any color.
Oh, yeah. There's
Taps
a lot of good
for
green cards.
but yeah, 1/3 blocker is real good.
I'd say black has spoken to me quite a bit, and then blue I think would be like my second pick right now. Like it feels like blue is the color is in the decks that I'm finding myself in the most.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know if blue is the strongest color in and of itself, but I do enjoy a lot of the cards in that set.
Yeah, I really liked playing with. I've liked blue so far, and the adventure copier guy. He's like 4 mana, 2/3 flyer, copy an adventure. That's a really interesting card because it's not. I don't think as good as Lucky Clover for a couple of reasons. I don't think the adventures in this set are quite the same level of like impact also, and stuff.
I think a couple of them are good, and then as a whole, they're kind of like all half card or less value.
Yeah, they're either off color or they're costed to be a little bit more. Like they definitely were more careful.
Yeah, I think with how Eldraine like fucking rocked
there was
standard
that cycle of 5,
the
rares that were just like every deck is running
Bone Crusher, Brazen Borrower, like Beanstalk, all were just like, oh, these are just 2 cards, like full on, and like that. I think that they were probably like, maybe we don't do that.
Yeah, and whether it was like Bone Crusher or the little dwarf
beast
guy that just like pumped, it was like basically a free trick. Rimrock Knight. Yeah, getting to copy that was really powerful. Where I think that card is, I don't think it's bad, and I've had it be very, very impactful in games, but this is like orders of magnitude not as good, right? Because it's a creature. It's so much easier to kill than an artifact. It's definitely 4 mana instead of 2. Like, it's different. Just keep that in mind.
What else are you even going to copy in blue? Because they've got like I guess it'd be the bounce.
There's a lot of bounce. There's bounce. There's the one that like makes a cursed roll for like 2 mana. That's great. 2 mana, curse 2 different things. Like, I love that.
I gotta play blue,
and it pairs really well with red. So I don't think that's a bad card. I just think they've scaled it back significantly. The color that's jumped out to me the most is red. There's a lot going on that I really like. You mentioned it. It's the 3 mana deal 2 plus the number of instants and sorceries. I've had that deal 7 and 8 in 2 different games, and I don't even feel like I was trying that hard. It's red's probably main way to deal with the 6/6 trampler, which otherwise you're just like out of luck. Or you got to string 2 things together, which
is kind of like a thing to know. A lot of the time I feel like red removal is balanced so that it can't kill big stuff. That's like an intentional design. So when they can do that, what
people
does that
are
mean to the
sleeping
meta?
on that card because I got it passed, and I think what's going on is they look at it and they say 3 mana to deal 2 sometimes. Yeah, sure. Like, you have to build around it a tiny bit. But, like, how hard is it to have 1 instant or sorcery in your graveyard? And then it's 3 to deal 3, which is respectable. And from there, it's going to scale up throughout the game. So I
Especially
actually think
when
that
you run multiple copies of it?
Yeah, when you have multiples, exactly.
And you know that it's in your deck. Like, I think it's, like, super easy to build around. And, like, I feel like it's a lot easier to end up with too many instants and sorceries than it is to end up with too many creatures. Like, I've definitely had decks where I'm like, oh boy, like my creature count's low, but I've never been like, oh, I need instants and sorceries and I don't have enough,
That's funny because I've been playing green and I keep being like, I really need some removal.
Oh yeah.
Because there's just like the werewolf fight or the monstrous roll fight, and there's really not a lot else.
Not a ton, but I think that Spider Food is going to be main deckable, the one that destroys a flyer, enchantment, or artifact.
Yeah, there's
you're
going to
have enough targets with that, and it's okay. It's not really removal, but killing an enchantment can be enough. Take the roll off of like something that's giving you a problem. Other like uncommon or commons and uncommons that kind of jumped out at me. The Grabby Giant, real good card.
Which one's he?
2 mana, make a treasure for his adventure, real cheap. And then 4 mana for a 4/3, and you can pay 3 mana to sack either a land or an artifact to draw a card.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So those effects
does he have reach?
And he has reach.
Okay.
Thank you. I was going to say
that's why is he grabby? I was wondering.
Well, that and his adventure is called Gimme or something like that, or That's Mine. So he just takes a treasure.
I like the little tabby cat.
Oh,
yeah, I think that thing can be solid. I had an opponent that was like dropping wicked rolls on it over and over and over again, and
I think
making rats. And
you can get a couple of them, and then it really runs away. If you get 2 down, and then you're making 2 rats, and
it's like you don't want to use removal on it, but if it makes 3 rats, you're like cooking. And then also like it has that like little death touch clause that is like now your opponent has to play around that. Like it's really nice.
It's annoying enough that it's baited out removal from me a couple times.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to use removal on a one drop, but like I think it does enough stuff where it's like, oh, all of a sudden like my 6/4 is like neutered by this single cat.
I think that's going to be like a deck signpost to me for the maybe Orzhov deck.
You think
that's
so?
Like
interesting.
I think you want that. Maybe it's either Orzhov or it's Rakdos. You really want that guy.
So I said I was going to ask you, like, what is white? I opened my white cards, and sure, there's some good white cards, and part of this is the difference between sealed and draft. I think the difference is really noticeable with this set, where you could just get a terrible pool and not have anything going. But I looked at my white cards and I was just kind of like, all right, the Griffin Orrery or whatever, like whenever you gain 3 life, you can make a 2/2 flying Griffin token. Like that seems good. And I had +2/+2 to all tokens. I think enchantment. There's just a lot of enchantments, and didn't seem like there was enough lifelink guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a sense of like how to build that Orzhov deck? Like, what does it want to do?
It needs the Archon. it needs the game winner.
I think like maybe it feels a little bit like all the cards in white, like they don't really like. It's not like you could be like, oh, I feel like if you had like a blue deck, you're like, it feels like blue is the tapper part of the blue-white tapper, and like, and I think it's kind of similar where it's like when you open your white cards, like if you looked at all your white cards, you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh yeah, like I see the tap thing here, but you do need it. Like you have a couple of payoffs, like some, like it just doesn't feel as like. It feels like it's a support color, maybe.
Well, yeah.
I like
so
the
the
2/2 guy
tapping
that'll
thing
tap.
makes sense. I should have clarified. The blue-white deck makes perfect sense to me. Like tap down your opponent's creatures, look for anything that says tap on it, and take those. But like,
is the question kind of like, what is the mono-white idea of this world?
Yeah, I think it's more like the white-black. There seems to be a lot of enchantments, and a lot of like life gain payoffs, a lot of token go wide payoffs that. I don't see a ton of token makers in white. It's just a little unclear what the other pairings are doing with white. White and red obviously wants to celebrate.
Yeah.
White
and I think is okay at that.
White and green is just enchantment.
Just make enchantments and benefit from them.
Synergies, yeah.
So maybe that's the deck that like I need to try, and you know, to get kind of wrap my head around. You draw a card every time you play.
I had a cute little thing with there's the guy that these are 2 uncommons. One's whenever you play an aura, draw a card, and then whenever an enchantment leaves a battlefield, draw a card.
Yep. Yeah.
That was fun in Golgari.
Yeah, I do like that green guy that draws you a card whenever you play an enchantment.
I think part of it too is like white's the things that are paired with white are pretty samey. Like it doesn't feel like that demonstrably different from the other things that white's doing. Like white is like have 2 things enter the battlefield, or like have enchantment. It feels like the other colors doing the defining, and like, but then you compare that to like blue. It's like blue-white tap is very different from blue-white instants and sorceries versus like blue-green like have things that are like everything in white feels just like have like a lot of permanence on the battlefield. Like it kind of just it kind of like blends together a little bit.
That and then just like a number of cards that say pay 3 mana, sacrifice this, and scry 2, which isn't necessarily a bad effect, but it kind of makes the cards read the same and then hard to parse, where, that's a nice value, but I can't really remember what the first part does, and so maybe that's a little bit of what's going on for me.
White sucks.
White is dumb!
Yeah, I don't think there's like a white weenie deck in here right now. That I've seen. I can't even think of it. The white 1-drop that lets you scry when you play an enchantment. I think you could play one of those in that deck. Maybe.
I don't like him.
Nah.
I don't like that dude.
Okay.
That's just my humble opinion. I mean, I haven't played it.
So I like him because if you're in that deck, you have a 1-drop, which you can target for your auras, which is good. And it's giving you card advantage, which is something that white is generally lacking. Obviously, you're not playing this guy in blue-white, but in like a green-white or a black-white deck, I think he's playable. 1 copy, 1 of.
Yeah.
He's definitely not a bomb.
Yeah.
I'm definitely still figuring that out. I like the one that it's like a lifelinker and it makes a roll.
A cursed roll attached to himself.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's the black one.
Right. There's 2. There's a black one that does it. The uncommon has lifelink and he gives himself a cursed roll.
That seems really strong. Okay, so then I'm building around the Griffin Orrery and you make the roll fall off. That's kind of cute. That's kind of the gameplay you almost like wish was in there.
Yeah.
But they all just contained it in one specific card where it's like, oh yeah, it's fun. You can put a different roll on him and then he's powerful, or put this roll on something else and make a little decision. Last one that like stood out to me that I wanted to talk about today though, man, I think we have a new Tolarian Terror in red.
Which one is it?
I think it's Hearth Elemental.
I know he was played against me and he was trouble.
6-drop. 4/5.
This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instant sorceries or have an adventure. Okay, so yes, this is pretty much Tolarian Terror, but without ward.
So if you have 5 instants or sorceries in your graveyard, he's going to just cost 1, and I've already done that. And the adventure is really not too bad. If you have less than 2 cards in your hand, you just discard 1 and draw 2. Like, that's awesome, and it's only 2 mana, but that's just a little buyout. Like, the card is going to cost, I've cast it for like 2, 3, 1, 4. It wasn't great, but like, I think that card's really strong.
Definitely strong. I will say the one thing that's going to keep it from being Tolarian Terror, though, is that this is an uncommon, and Tolarian Terror was a common. Yeah, so you could have
7 4 or
5.
Easily. Yeah.
I mean, not easily, but there was a point in the time when you were ahead of the curve. You could have had 5 or 6 Tolarian Terrors.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I remember early on when you like could go off with those.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I'm curious. I want to, well, only because this is a leading question because I have my own big blunder, but I'm curious everybody's like biggest blunder so far.
Ooh, there have been a couple of bad ones.
I actually have yet to make a mistake while playing Magic the Gathering.
Ever.
If I've lost, it's because there was no possible way for me to have won.
Yeah, or you were joking.
Yeah.
You did it as a joke.
No big blunders stick out to me, but I've made play mistakes.
The one that sticks out to me, and it's not like a great story necessarily, but I had lethal, and then I had the battle mouse, and I played a creature for its adventure, and then I said I went to combat, and I had counted on casting the other side of bringing the creature in to trigger celebration to get that last point to go to lethal. So I had declared all of my attackers and would put them at 1, and I was just decided not to. I was just like, you know what, whatever, I'll just give you that game. Let's go to the next one. I don't know why I did that, but I just whatever. I punted so hard that I'm just not even gonna try and ask for a redo on that. But I 100% had lethal. I had the mana to cast it. I had everything that I needed. So I think that was more of just a keeping track of everything going on in the game state.
Yeah.
Which is a legitimate thing when you've got so many roles and so many different things. But what's yours? I'll try and think if I have a better story,
Mine happened last night on Arena.
Okay.
I had Expel the Interlopers, and I had it in my opening hand, and I was like,
the card reads?
I'll tell you what I thought, which is basically where I was it's one of those ones where you choose a condition, and then everybody sacks based on that sacks a number of creatures. So it's basically the board wipe of this set.
Choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures that
have power greater than the number you choose. And I was like, it's just the one from Innistrad where you just choose a number for everybody to sack. And I was like, alrighty. And I was like playing this game out. I was like forcing him to play out his stuff, like kind of like tapping stuff so that it would stay on the board, but like trying to like encourage him to like really like overcommit. And I was like, great, I'm in a great spot. I have like backup for this, like after I do it to like stabilize. And the board was like perfect. He had just played his creature on an adventure. He was tapped out. And I was like, boom, just immediately played it, didn't read it, plussed it to 10, and then didn't kill a single thing.
Oh, you were killed all 10 drops.
Anything with 10 power or greater.
Power 10 or greater.
And I was like, as soon as I did that, I just went, no!
That is really painful.
And it was just like, I just didn't read the card. I assumed that I knew what it was going to happen.
I had a similar one, which was just a mechanical mistake, but I was going to play my Elusive Otter, and I was going to cast the Adventure for like 12 and put like counters on everything, and I just played him as a 1/1. And I was like, I wanted that back so bad. So I'll tell you one last card that kind of surprised me, like really surprised me, because I think I don't know where I'm at on it right now. And then also just like one of my favorite designs of the set so far. I drafted Food Fight, which is the 2-mana enchantment that says sack an artifact, pay 2, sack an artifact, and deal 1 plus the number of food fights that you have. So usually it's going to be like sack a treasure, deal 2. That card's actually pretty strong. I kind of built around it, but you make a lot of treasure and then a couple of extra like food and other artifacts that you can sack. Like I had one of the catapults, and so I was dealing indirect damage with the catapult, and then the catapult's an artifact, so I could tap it, deal 1, and then sack it for another 2. Just turning every treasure into a shock is pretty reasonably powerful. I thought that card was total baloney, you know?
I think it could be good.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen it in the wild yet, so in the Wilds of Eldraine, to be clear.
Yeah.
People were passing it to me. Like I saw it in 2 different drafts in a row, and I was like, oh yeah, this is one of those cards that people think are bad. And
I got the little cookie guy in a deck, and I really wanted to play him.
That dude is disgusting.
But I never drew him, which made me sad.
Tough
He's
cookie?
He's
very
definitely,
powerful.
he's very powerful. You see him on the text, but
Yeah.
I wanted to play him, didn't get to.
That's one of those cards. He's the new Ginger Runner or whatever.
Ginger Brute?
He's the new Ginger Brute. I've had people play Ginger Brute against me. I'm not sure if he's still the same specimen that he was.
He kind of ate my
before.
lunch in a game.
Did he?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It was catapults plus ginger brutes. Like he had 2
good.
ginger brutes and 2 catapults, and it was just like
4 damage a turn. 4 damage a turn.
Ding ding ding.
And
ding.
I even ate a lot of food, but
Yeah.
he was able to get there.
Fair.
I just couldn't stop it, and I couldn't attack through it because my creatures were, I guess.
Plus
so
the
we
0-4, you know?
go back to this. 4 power is definitely probably the magic number to get through the catapults, which I think we're going to see a lot of in this format.
Yep.
So in that way, the math is nice. Those like the 4/2 for 3, I think maybe is going to be a good card.
I think the number's going to be 5. I think that
5?
that's where you're like strong. Like
Yeah.
4 is a good creature, and I think it's because you're going to see a lot of young hero tokens on rats. Mm-hmm. Like there's enough young hero tokens out there, and rats are so prevalent. And obviously you don't have to put them on rats. Like you could put them on. What I am terrified of, and it's definitely going to happen a lot, is Sir Ginger the Meal Ender, like the 3/1. With a young hero.
Oh, yeah.
And it becomes a 6/3 in a couple of turns, and you just can't stop it. Like, yeah, that could be really good. What's that?
Does that have trample?
I think it might come with trample.
It has something when you have a planeswalker. He only gets his keywords when you have a planeswalker.
Right, because he's like super angry at them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because like Garrick ate his wife or something.
Pretty stupid. So I liked that, and then the card that works well with Food Fight, and like the design is just so good. Have you seen Flick a Coin?
Mm-hmm. I like Flick a Coin.
I love Flick a Coin. So great. 3 mana, deal 1 damage, make a treasure, draw a card.
It's kind of a little bit of everything.
It's a little bit of everything.
Storm players love it.
The art is fantastic. Like I like just like lining it up, and then,
I can picture the art. Yeah.
just boom, kill your tabby.
Uh-huh.
Oh, got your Ginger Brute. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff with 1 toughness that you're gonna want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the fact that you can pop it also like after combat or something and like finish something off, like that kind of
Totally.
stuff is all cool. And yeah, I think like having a treasure plus a draw card is like sign me up.
You guys got one more in you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you seen Talion the Kindly Lord? Blue black. Okay. He's a wacky rare. When Talion enters the battlefield, you pick a number between 1 and 10, I believe.
Whenever an opponent casts a spell with a mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. This is a fun commander card.
This is a very fun commander card.
Oh yeah, I think I saw. I did see like there was just a bunch of like dorks that were like, "What's the ideal number like for a different formats?" Like Vintage, it's like
that's what they were talking
they're like,
about.
is it 1 or 2? Like because you know you have so many one mana spells that you're playing in Vintage, and like CEDH, it's like what's the magic number?
Totally.
It's really interesting. Like, I think it's like a fun little puzzle almost for like the like stats people to like comb through their data.
Well, so you know what the question I was going to ask you, of course, is like, what's the number for Talion in limited? Like, let's say you've drafted that card, you're playing against your opponent, and of course it might fluctuate based on your opponent, but like, what do you think just off the top of your head? Because I played it in Two-Headed Giant. So I had this exact situation come up. Like, do you have a gut instinct on what's going to get you the most triggers?
I feel like it's either 2 or 3. That's fair, I guess.
Yeah, well, the only other thing I'm thinking about is he is a 4-cost creature.
He is a 4-cost creature.
But I do want to say it's like 2 is where my head was, just because there's so many...
Because it's mana value, power, or toughness.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's going to hit
lot of different
one
ways.
of so many things. 3 is also a good one because there's a lot of 3 butts.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first time we played him, we chose 2. Because I was just like, I feel like that the spread, people love to play 2 drops.
It's not 10. We know that.
It's definitely not.
It's not 9.
Don't do it, Taylor. No.
It's either 2, 3, or 8. I think there's a lot of stuff that also gets like, all right, this is a really powerful effect, and we dumb it down by reducing the power or toughness of that creature. Like,
sure.
It's like, I mean, there's that like Archon that's 3/3 flyer. Mm-hmm. There's also a lot of flyers that are like costed high, but like power toughness low. Like a lot of 2/3s.
Right.
I think there's just a ton of three butts that's kind of what made me think.
So the second time we played it, because they bounced it back to my hand, the second time I played it, I chose 3 because we were like, that hits a lot of the removal. So at least if they're going to attack him, at least if they try to remove him, I'm going to get 1 card out of it.
Yeah.
Then I played against an opponent, and they did something different than both of those things that I wonder if this is going to end up being the like correct play. They just did the next number on the curve. So
5.
Whatever mana I have, you go up 1. And I think I had 3 mana at that time, so they just chose 4, being like, you're probably going to play a 4-drop, and that way I get my card immediately. Like, who cares whether you kill it or not, but like the next thing you play, either you're going to have to play off curve, and I've gotten something, or you're going to give me 2 life in a card. And
that's kind of smart too.
I don't know if that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't actually think I triggered it. I think I just double spelled. But
yeah, I think that's the tricky part. Is like double spelling gets around that, and that's a lot of what limited Magic is on turn 5 is double spelling rather than playing a 5-drop. Because you only want
have
three 5-drops in your deck max, right?
Same with 4-drops. I usually have like 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like the thing
4
is
8s.
The thing is like you're not and then the rest it's just that green rare that costs 8 and lets me see 20 cards.
Mm-hmm.
But you're never seeing low cost things that have 5 toughness. Like unless like there's like 1 or 2%.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are going to keep plugging at it. Let us know what your Talion numbers are. And thanks for joining us on this episode. We'll be back with more magic soon.
Good night.
Anybody want coffee?
Thanks for joining, Taylor. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.